global network that is focused on raising awareness, networking, and sharing of experiences relating to the whole spectrum of spiritually transformative experiences that are happening to people today. So we're looking at near-death experiences, Kundalini awakenings, and Holy Spirit experiences, mystical experiences, transdimensional experiences, including UFO encounters, all sorts of psychic phenomenon like mediumship, channeling, past life recall. The whole spectrum of spiritually transformative experiences is the focus of Spiritual Awakenings International. And we are having our very first online conference, and that is going to be June 12th and June 13th. That's a Saturday and Sunday, and it's free. And we're going to have 22 outstanding speakers from around the world on a vast array of topics related to spiritual awakenings. You can register and you can learn more on our website, which is www.spiritualawakeningsinternational.org. Now, today, we're going to have a very brief interview, just a sneak peek interview with three of our speakers who are going to be presenting at the conference. That's going to be Tamara, Calder, Richardson, Greg Thompson, and Wendy Rose Williams. Could you bring them on, please, Tamara?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm just saying hello. We're having people starting to pop into the live chat and are excited. So here we go. Thank you.
All right. So one of our incredible speaker events at the Spiritual Awakenings International Conference is going to be a multiple STE experiencers panel. So this is all people who've had not one, but multiple STEs or spiritually transformative experiences, and not just of one type, but of many different kinds of experiences. Because what research is finding, and what I've been writing in my books for many years, is that after a spiritual awakening, no matter what the type of experiences that people have as their spiritual awakening, they often go on to be a multiple STE experiencer where they're having many types of spiritually transformative experiences repeatedly over their lifetime. So our three panelists today are great examples of that. And so they're going to give you lots more during their presentation at the Spiritual Awakenings International Conference. But today, I'm going to ask each of them to give you a sneak peek, some of the highlights of what they're going to talk about. So first, I'd like to invite Tamara, Calder, Richardson to tell us a little bit. As some of you may know, Tamara herself is a multiple NDE and multiple STE experiencer. She's a Christ channeler, a Christian minister, a mystic seer, an evidential medium. I mean, her list goes on of everything that Tamara is. She's born in Hickory, North Carolina, and she's of Cherokee and German Swedish descent. And she says that she was born with the gift of sight, which just accelerated as her life went on. So Tamara, do you want to tell us a little bit about your spiritually transformative experiences that you're going to be talking about at the conference?
Yes, and thank you for a beautiful introduction and for everyone being here. It's nice to see everyone's faces. Yes, I think that just to get it out of the way, I've had 6 near-death experiences. Most were from childhood, from a prenatal 3, 4, 5, 10, and 28. That I know that is a type of spiritually transformative experience, but I think that did enhance because it was like a massive Kundalini awakening early on, but it also had a lot of things with the head, injuries with the head. So I think that was definitely awakening, but I began seeing and talking to spirit people. I would see them, but they looked like us, so I didn't see that was a problem until later on. That people didn't see these type of things, but I was that I can recall, I'm sure I was probably younger, but 3 years old. And I also have seen early on from the very beginning the angelic realm as well as the demonic realm. People don't like talking about that, but bonus, I get to see angels too. But they would present themselves in different ways, like beings of light, or they would be different colors and ways, or they would be orbs. I've actually seen them like in forms too. I've seen them in people as a police, which I'm not going to talk about that now, but I'll talk about it at the event. that there were 2 policemen that came to my aid that were angels. That was a really cool story. Actually, I've had 2 of those where they were actual people, where they manifested a body. You hear people with service workers or hospital or police. As well as the Christ channeling. I've always talked to him, then I realized that as I began to train later on, I decided after owning an advertising agency and actually having a real life and a career, and getting married and so forth, that I would really look into this mediumship. And so I began to see the differences in spirit and me and the different realms. And then I realized, wow, this Christ fellow sure is talking to me a lot. And so, and I get whole messages, but I have gotten messages also from saints, and they're very detailed and evidential. I've gotten Einstein. That's an amazing story. I'm going to ask if someone will allow me to tell that story, because it actually is evidential and it's written in their book. And so Einstein, George Harrison, John Lennon, Tesla. Tesla showed up the other day and started talking science and spirituality should be together. And I think it's because I just tap into these realms and I like living there. So I do astral travel quite a bit, and I can go out of body at will. I'm also not only a mental medium, but I'm a physical medium as well, which means I can make things happen in the room. I can also do trance and transfiguration. Don't really try, but sometimes a person will be so close to me that their face will start showing on my, if it's somebody's sweet grandmother, it really doesn't bother me. It's just because of the energy that I'm working with. So all the things that seem like that is paranormal has always been normal to me. And I think that's why I'm so excited to meet other people like me, like the past lives. I've had, Wendy Rose Williams on my channel, and I just loved it because she's done so much past life herself, not only as a progressionist, and I have too. I've done over 300 hours of past life, and it is a game changer. But every time I think that you do your next step, it opens that spiritual portal even more. So it continues to morph in bigger ways that I never imagined. So I've always been this way. And it's so nice to be around other people that are like me, that I can talk the same language.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, thank you, Tamara. Now that's a nice sneak peek to tantalize you people to hear more about your stories at the conference in June 12th and 13th. Next, I'd like to invite Greg Thompson to share a little bit about what he's going to be talking about. If I can introduce Greg, he lives in Portland, Oregon, and he lists himself as a retired IBM software engineer, but he is also a multiple STE and multiple NDE experiencer. He says he lives with spirit guides daily, and he is also the current leader of Portland Ions. So, Greg, would you like to share with us a little sneak peek of what you're going to be talking about at the SAI conference?
Yes, thank you, Yvonne. Thank you for the introduction. Yeah, I have had spirit guides in my life, my entire life. They first appeared, or first became aware of them when I was 4 or 5 months old. And that was verified by my mother many years later when I talked to her about it. And she was quite surprised that I understood what was happening at that event. That event actually involved learning that my father had died. And I didn't know what the word death meant at that time. And there was no way I could possibly know, but I did understand that it meant I would never see him alive. And that was my introduction to death. But it got more interesting when I got about 4 years old. And that's when my guardian angel came to visit me. And it was at night in bed. And all of a sudden I became aware that at the end of the bed, there was this being, a little boy, sitting on the bed about my age. And it was kind of a bluish white color. And it was just writing, and it had its back to me, and it was writing something. And it got done, and I was just staring at it. And finally it looked at me and goes, "Oh, hello." And I said, "Hello." We had a little bit of a conversation. What I discovered out of that was that he wouldn't tell me, but he knew that I had a path to follow in this life. But he wouldn't tell me what it was. He said, "You got choices. You don't have to follow the path. You can do anything you want." But I was trying to figure out, well, what's the path? How would I know I'm on the path or not? And we had a long discussion about that. And finally, he did tell me what it was, that I was going to do, but then he erased it from my memory. So I still didn't know. But then later that year, I was floating around. I started floating out of my body at night when I was sleeping, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The freedom of that of just lifting yourself up, just thoroughly enjoying it. And all of a sudden, I had two spirit guides with me.
Wow.
And they said, "You can fly higher. We can fly higher." And eventually, they convinced me to fly out of the house, right through the roof, and out up into the sky, and far, far out into space, out through the solar system. And I was kind of worried about it at first because, well, I can't breathe out here. How am I still surviving? He said, "Well, your body's still in bed. It's just you that's with us." I'm going, okay, didn't understand what they're talking about. But they took me out far, far out there. And then 3 other spirit guides came by and picked me up and took me to the final part of the journey. And they took me through a circle of light, a tunnel of light, a lot of different colors, blue, white, yellow, streaking lights going past me. And when I got through that light, that tunnel, I was in a void with them. And 2 teachers appeared, and they were white lights, 2 of them side by side, vertical shapes. And they were there to teach me what I needed to know while living this life on Earth. So they would have me say something, they would say something, and have me repeat it back and forth, back and forth. And one of them did it, then the other one did it. Okay. I had to go back 2 more times after that until I got it right. They also told me at that time I would not remember what I was being told until I needed to know it. So that was kind of a teaser for me. And then at the age of 17, I was in college, freshman year, and I was trying to figure out what in the world I was supposed to do with my life. I didn't have any particular ambitions. I was just a Bachelor of Arts at the University of Oregon. Didn't know what to do, and I also was kind of backward with girls. Didn't know how to make communication with them. And I was going, well, how in the world? Everybody I knew they knew what they wanted to do for a living. They had girlfriends, and here I was kind of not quite with it. And suddenly I was aware, again, that I would have a fantastic career. I would have this career, and they didn't say what it was, but I'd have this fantastic career, and I would live in it and work with it as long as I wanted to. I'd never be fired, never be let go. I would just stay in it for as long as I want. I would retire on my own terms. And that I would also have a wonderful family life and children in my life. And both came true. I worked for 42 years as a software engineer, and I have a significant other and children, grandchildren, that sort of thing. So it turned out to be all true. So that was what one of the things the teachers were telling me about.
Wow. Anyway, I think we're going to have to wrap up because we want to make sure that people are interested and teased for coming to hear what you have to say. Sounds fascinating, Greg. I look forward to hearing more of what you have to share when we come to the conference, June 12th and 13th. And now Wendy Rose Williams is the 3rd person on our panel. And Wendy Rose Williams is also a multiple STE and experiencer and multiple NDEs. She lives in the Seattle, Washington area, I believe. And she is a certified spiritual teacher, a Reiki master, and she calls herself a past life adventure guide. So, Wendy, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you'll be talking about at the conference?
Well, absolutely. Well, Yvonne, I just so appreciate the depth and the breadth of what Spiritual Awakenings has brought together, as well as the quality of the programs, because being someone who just has had experiences that to me just seemed so out there, and it really was a big deal trying to process them all and integrate them all. And I think many of our listeners will really benefit and enjoy that at the conference because it'll help them make sense of their own experiences. So what I'll be focusing my talk on is I had 2 near-death experiences in a week in August of 1997 when I was newly pregnant with my youngest daughter. And it was a really, really big deal. It was a game changer in so many ways because like Greg's been talking about, that wonderful relationship with guides and Tamara too, just getting to feel that love of being at home, that unconditional love, that was a game changer for me. And to know that I had a choice, and I felt very respected to know that I had a choice. Did I want to come back to my life? And what was going to be different about it? So that was really, really significant for me. And to know that I could then start to connect with these wonderful guides and that I was supported and loved. It just really was at a very, very different level for me. I also learned something crucial, which was that I was not on my life path. And we've had several comments about, life path. You can make that bigger. Think about your soul mission across all your lifetimes. And learning that was very sobering for me, and I just had a lot of motivation to figure it out. So I'll tell more about that story and what did I do to start to address that. But just invite everyone to sign up for this fantastic conference, because you're going to get to hear so many wonderful speakers and topics, and I'm so excited for it, and just feeling really privileged to get to share at the conference.
Oh, that's wonderful, Wendy. Thank you. Well, I too am a multiple NDE and multiple STE experiencer, so I personally embrace how important it is for all of us to share that awareness broadly, because I believe there are many people, some who may be listening, who have felt sort of in the closet, uncomfortable to share all types of experiences they've had. NDEs are just one type of spiritually transformative experience that people are having. So with that, I'd like to ask the three of you a couple questions before we wrap up, which is, I'd like each of you to share, what do you think is the most important thing that you have learned by having all of these spiritually transformative experiences in your life? Tamara, do you want to go first?
I don't know what you're going to think about this answer. What I got is that this isn't the real place. That's out of all my experiences, there's another realm that's higher and more beautiful, that's trying to communicate with us. And to me, this doesn't feel like the true reality or true state. So it's comforting to me with all the spiritual experiences that I've experienced, the angelic ones, the holy ones, that I know that we are so loved from above, and that this is just a short snippet in time, and then it's gone, but we're so much bigger than that. So I try to keep that in perspective when I'm, having a, bad or sad day or whatever. I'll go, well, this is just part of being here, and there's a bigger world out there. There are bigger realms. So I think that's what I look at. I put it more in perspective of what I think reality is.
Awesome. Wonderful. What about you, Greg? What's the most important thing you think you've learned from all these STEs?
I have to agree with what she just said. This life, I believe that this is not the real world. This is the physical world. This is for us to learn how to get along with each other. We're given, there's so many different varieties of life on Earth. It's unbelievable. And to try to communicate and to enjoy them all is a blessing for us. But the real world, to me, is that loving, caring world called home. And I'm able now to blend both of those worlds together on a daily basis. And I'm still learning how to work with that and stay in the true world that we know here on the physical world, and also be able to communicate with the world outside into real life. And I'm helping others do that too. It's very important for us who have survived through NDEs and such to try to spread that wealth around to those who are willing to listen.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you. And Wendy, what about you? What do you think is the most important thing you've learned from having all your STEs?
I highly relate to what both Greg and Tamara said, and I just feel that we are eternal souls having this temporary experience. And I try and keep a sense of humor about it and think of it as adventure camp. Think of it as school. Whatever a play, whatever the right analogy is for you. But it just takes away the weight of that perfectionism, to know that our soul craves experiences to progress. And that's why we have those challenging experiences as well as those wonderful, uplifting, beautiful experiences. and just being able to integrate it. I think that word integration is very key, and being able to balance our egos, because our egos, that left brain, can kick off some fear factor, and just we can feel like, oh gosh, what if I'm making all this up? Well, I just want to reassure you, you're not making it up, because there's so many experiencers in all these areas. Just trust yourself, trust your intuition, and just try and really feel that love, because I feel we're here to be able to return to that, because it's that unconditional love on the other side, and we're here to accomplish it in a human body.
Wow, awesome. Tamara, you had your hand up. Do I have time for one more question, or are we out of time?
I just wanted to mention something about you, Dr. Kason. Your book is incredible for people that want to know more about this phenomena. And that would be, and I actually have it right here, it was in my database, Touched by the Light. It was phenomenal, because I've had so many spiritually transformative experiences that I didn't even know what they were called or they were a thing. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing until I read through it. And for those of you that are trying to find out what all this means, terrific book also on the Spiritual Awakenings International, and I'll get you that information. Not only sign up for the conference, but that if you go to the spiritualawakeningsinternational.org, there is a whole section where you can look at all the signs of spiritual awakenings, the different type of NDEs. I mean, it's very detailed, because there's so many. So I thank you for your work, and also coining the term spiritually transformative experiences. That was SAI's president and founder, Dr. Von Kason, that did that. So thank you for being a pioneer in all this for us. So when we're having this, we know what it is.
Well, I thank you, Tamara. Thank you very much. I actually wanted to ask everyone one more question before we wrap up, because I think some of the listeners can also relate to that. And that is, I wanted to ask each of you, what has been one of the most challenging things for you being a person who has multiple STEs? Tamara, do you want to go first?
What has been the most challenging? Well, it's funny, when you asked me that, I went, it's all different points in my life. So I'll have to answer it now. I'll quickly say, when I was younger, I guess understanding not really having anyone to speak to, or teacher, or being afraid to speak out, because I didn't want to be labeled as crazy or what have you. Now, I don't care about those things. I'm an accomplished real person, and I feel comfortable in my own skin. So I guess the challenge would be now is trying to love people around me that are so family members or friends from the past that are so severely different than me and my spiritual ethics and so forth. Not that I'm great or anything, but I really work at this and love them right where they are. And even though they don't get me, it's just love them anyway. I think that's the biggest challenge for me.
Wow. Thank you, Tamara. What about you, Greg? What's been the biggest challenge for you being a multiple STE experiencer all your life?
I think it was really when I was young, trying to figure out why I knew things that others didn't know. And they were starting to laugh at me, especially kids at school, that sort of thing. And I learned to be quiet. I did have a mother who understood. I didn't realize how much until I looked back on life, how much she did understand what was going on with me. But I never really talked about it until after 9/11. And there's a whole story about that whole thing. And I went into deep depression because I felt guilty because I knew what was going to happen and I didn't know how to stop it. And that was probably the worst time. And after that is when I met people who helped me understand that, no, this is normal. And that's when I started coming out and started talking about it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Greg. And what about you, Wendy? What has been most challenging for you being a multiple STE experiencer?
I think what's been most challenging has been integrating the experiences into daily life, because it's not that you have this big change, this big epiphany. It's the continuing journey, and you still have to carry water, chop wood.
Yes.
Whoever said that famous quote, it's so true. And you just really have to look for the ways to, as Tamara said, just be very loving and accepting and non-judgmental with family and friends, because we're the ones going through the big changes. And it can be very off-putting for people. They feel like, oh my goodness, what is she or he talking about? That sounds so out there. I'm not sure that I believe any of that, because they're not having the experiences themselves yet. And it just may not be of interest. So just going through some loss, just feeling the loss of those relationships, because it can be immediate family. It can be some of your lifelong friends, but you just got to be true to yourself and know what your path is, and just be, as kind and gentle as you can, and non-judgmental with everyone, and just keep opening your heart, and just keep doing your work.
Awesome. Thank you, Wendy. Well, I think we're going to end up with that. And I invite everyone who's listening to go to our Spiritual Awakenings International website. It's www.spiritualawakeningsinternational.org. And you can register for our conference June 12th and 13th, which is a Saturday and Sunday. It's free. It's online. Everyone is welcome from around the world. And we have a total of 22 international speakers, including all four of us that are here today. So invite you all to come to our conference in June. And I look forward to hearing more from Tamara, Greg, and Wendy at our conference.
Thank you all so much. Wow. I'm so happy to hear your thoughts on this. That made my day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
See you June 12th and 13th.
See you in June. That's right. Bye now.
It's free. Bye. I'm going to put the last slide up so you know where to sign up. Bye, guys. Much love.